Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of The Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, host also of RT's talk show, and Buddy is making his due appearance. So, Peter, the other day, the OSCE has announced that it will not be sending any monitors to observe the Russian parliamentary elections next month. The reason for it is that they wanted to send some 500 plus observers to look at the election, but the Russians, citing obviously the COVID pandemic, said that you have to limit it to 60. Up with this, the OSCE would not put, and said that we will not be restricted in any shape, manner, or form, and we will therefore not be sending any observers. The Russians, I have to say, are making a very reasonable point. Whether that's the reason why they, they insisted that it be restricted to 60 because of the pandemic, their point is a fair one, because when the elections were held in the United States last November, the OSCE sent only 30 observers. United States, at least the population of the country is twice the size of the Russian Federation. So it's very strange why the OSCE was perfectly happy to limit the numbers of its observers, citing, the restrictions of the pandemic. But now,
not a peep from them.
Exactly. Yeah. And of course, by the way, after the election, they said 2 thumbs up. It was a great job, guys. Fair, free, wonderful, no problems whatsoever. One of the most ridiculous elections in history. So you have to say all of this is, the OSCE's protests are absurd. But typically enough, the U.S. State Department has weighed in and to express its indignation as to what the Russians have done. And they announced, even though OSCE election observers cannot be present, the international community will be watching the Duma elections process in the run-up to the elections as well as on election day to determine whether the conditions are conducive to the holding of free and fair elections. Russia will not escape the international spotlight. And of course, the British ambassador to the OSCE also chimed in and said, we will have to draw our own conclusions on why Russia does not want its elections to be monitored by an independent body. The limitation Russia placed on an ODIHR, that's the Office of Democratic Institution, which is the branch of the OSCE does the election monitoring. This ODIHR mission is against the interests of the Russian people and anyone who wishes to see democracy protected in Russia. Well, the fact that they're showing absolutely no understanding for Russia's limitations just shows what political opportunism is. I would have thought it's very hard to see the justification for 500 observers at a time when everybody's supposed to be, hair on fire over the pandemic. So anyway, Peter, what's your take?
And observers that are short-term and long-term,
Right,
which are not defined whatsoever.
Right.
Before I forget, just because I want to get it off, the OSCE's coverage of the US election, you have the impression they didn't even break from brunch.
I don't think they did. I don't think they did. I mean, to declare after that election, everything is great, super duper, guys, which just is a joke.
All right, let's do some myth breaking here. When you're a member of the OSCE, you agree to election observers in your country. Mm-hmm. That's it, George. It doesn't say a percentage of the population, right, a certain time period, none of that. Right. None of that. So I looked at a number of articles and it gives there's this impression that there is some set number and Russia's against a set number. No, right, well, there is no set number for any country. Right. Okay. And there is no set time frame for any country. As a matter of fact, it's the host country that has to agree. Right. So, I mean, this is so much nonsense about nothing. Okay. Right. Number two, reading it was the British ambassador to the OSCE?
The British ambassador, yeah.
Yeah, well, don't you have the deep impression? Call me skeptical. They've already written their press release about the election. It's done.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And also, Russia is not foolish when it comes to these things. When you watch how the OSCE works, they're going to call it unfair no matter what.
And
okay?
that's the whole point.
I mean, if they had 1 here or 1,000 here.
Right. No, yeah. No, go and finish your point.
Let me give you an example. I was covering an election in Ukraine a number of years ago. I went to so many of them, George, I don't remember exactly which one it was at this moment. However, I actually interviewed for RT election observers. And it was really funny. And the story, a variation of the story happens to me all of the time. So we have our stand-up position and the cameras are there and, and producers and everything. And I'm walking towards it knowing I'm going to be on air in a few minutes. And there were this couple and I said, hi, well, you look like you're from like the US, maybe Kansas. No, we're from Missouri. And we're retirees and we volunteered. And I said, you're here to watch the election? And she said, yes. She said, and where are you from? And I said, I'm from California. And I said, so what's it mean to be an observer? Because, we're going to be talking to you in a few minutes. And she said, oh, we're here to watch Yanukovych. I said, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. You're here to observe the election? Yes, we're here to watch Yanukovych.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, and then later they found out I worked at RT and they were very red-faced about the whole thing.
No,
okay?
I think that's it.
I saw the same thing happen in Georgia.
Yeah, no,
okay?
I think that's it. I mean, the point is that if you look at the reports that the OSCE published after the presidential election of 2018, after the Duma elections of 2016, they're already, although they can't find anything wrong, no ballot stuffing, no coercion of people to vote in a particular way. Already, it's not really a fair election because there's the government domination of the media, which is true, pretty much in every country in the world. The government dominates the media. And again, if they'd have observed the U.S. election, apparently, the whole story of how the social media were in the tank with the Democratic Party, that simply escaped their attention. So yeah, they've already written it, and so therefore, the Russians know. Yeah, once they write their interim findings and then the final long report, it's going to be the same thing. Yeah, it was not a fair election. And that's it. And then the Western media will exult. Yeah, we told you it was not a fair election. And we have the OSCE to tell us that it was not a fair election.
We had the Organization of American States do the same thing in Honduras, saying the election wasn't free, it wasn't fair, and then the government was overthrown. And then meekishly, a few months later, the New York Times reports, well, apparently there was no election rigging in Honduras here. I mean, again, you and I have said this repeatedly here, and we're going to talk in a few minutes about Belarus, but this is the cudgel they use. The elections.
Right.
And it gets the ball rolling, okay? Or get Navalny on stage, get him on air, get a regime change, okay? We got the playbook, okay? Right. We're not making this stuff up. This happens repeatedly. Places like in Kyrgyzstan that you don't hear very much about, but there is a regime change playbook there. Obviously, there was one in Georgia. Obviously, there was one in Ukraine. We have it in Moldova as well, and attempts in Armenia. It's the same playbook over and over again, and it's always elections.
It's always elections, exactly. And therefore, you come in and you're there to say this was not a free and fair election, and then you have the kind of the renter mob, with the opposition that's lost the election to proclaim, no, we actually won this election. It was stolen from us, and of course, the media are there happily to regurgitate the stuff that the OSCE peddles. So yeah, it's the same playbook every time, and that's what they were going to do in Russia. Now, in this case, the Russians were able to make a perfectly reasonable point, which is you've got to restrict your presence. You can't have a global pandemic one day and then everything's back to normal the next.
Russia has a border, not like America.
That's right. And you'd have to think, though, incidentally, that the fact that the OSCE made this ridiculous demand of demanding 500 people attending, which is the norm, which is what they did back in 2018, long before the pandemic. For them to just pretend that there's no pandemic, we want the same the same number. You'd have that it was a deliberately provocative gesture. They knew the Russians were never going to accept anything remotely, and the fact that they just said, "That's it, we're not going to do it." No attempt even to negotiate. I mean, they're saying, "All right, you say 60, we say 500. Let's cut the difference to say 200 or whatever." They didn't even do that. Oh, that's it.
Nope,
we're not coming.
Well, I'm sure with the Hungarian election coming up, there'll be like 3,000 observers.
Exactly. A country of 10 million, and we need 3,000 observers.
Oh, who knows? Maybe 10,000. We got to be real careful there. Okay.
Right.
Of course, their opinions will be. It's a foregone conclusion, unfortunately.
Yep.
But again, I hope that for George and I are doing this for pedagogical purposes to show how they attempt. Like I said in my first response here, is up to the host country to agree with the OSCE. It's not the OSCE that makes the demands on the host country. That's right. But all of the media coverage gives you the complete opposite impression.
Right. No, I think it's a very good point. The host country invites them in, but then it's the host. What does the host do? The host sets the conditions. Basically, you're going to be guests in our country. You're going to be moving around and so on. But we set the conditions, which is how many it would be the proper number. For them to say, no, we're going to determine how many of us are going to enter your country. I mean, that's just insolence, and no one's going to accept that.
I mean, of all the State Department talking about the veracity of elections.
Right.
I mean, this is like reading Mad Magazine from our youth. Okay, this is patently, obviously stupid. Okay, I mean, well, why don't you worry about the audits in your own country?
All right, yeah, exactly. So anyway, as you say, the news stories from next month are already written. These elections were not free and fair. They were fraudulent. And look, they banned the OSCE from observing the elections.
For gagglers, you'll have an exclusive here, just for the gaggle. On election day, I will go to a number of polling stations, and I will give you my report observing. I've been to I've observed a number of elections. I've gone right in. I show my ID. I'm a foreigner. I'm just taking a look around. So go ahead, no problem. Okay, and I'll tell you what it's like. Okay, it's extremely straightforward. George, I'm going to break it to you. I mean, this could shatter you, but there's voter ID laws here. Okay.
Wow. That's that. I can't think of anything less democratic than voter IDs. I mean, the notion of asking people to show their ID before they cast their vote. I mean,
see, apropos, if there weren't, then I could just walk in and vote in every single polling station that I want.
Right.
Well, I wonder if that ever happened in America.
Right.
What do you think, George? I don't know. All right, everybody, we're on locals, so please go to thegaggle.locals.com. We have the store up, lots of buddy stuff that everyone likes. George and I are doing Zoom interviews with our followers, one-on-one.
Yes.
We've done 2 Q&As. I think we're going to do one this week because questions keep piling up.
That's it.
George has done his first live stream. I'm going to follow suit. And
we're going to do one on YouTube. You're going to do a YouTube. Chat. Exactly, that'll be fun.
Get that wallet out.
That's right. That's it. Yeah. And there's of course always the vexed issue of the tip jar. So anything that you can dunk into the tip jar would be most appreciated. Is that Bobby?
This is Robbie.
This is Robbie. So Robbie, I think he hasn't had anything from the tip jar. So that's how badly.
Yeah.
So, but in all seriousness, anything you can contribute would be most appreciated. We're very grateful for all of your help and support. We don't have Mark Zuckerberg whipping out his checkbook and sending us millions of dollars. So we rely on the friendship and support of fellow gagglers. So we're very appreciative. And remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.